Lila woke up to the soft smell of soup coming from the kitchen. The morning sun was just peeking through the curtains, and the quiet hum of the city outside made the small apartment feel calm. She stretched and rubbed her eyes, noticing that her mother was still in bed looking tired. Normally, her mother would already be bustling around getting ready for the day, but today something was different. Her mother coughed softly and sank back into the pillows, a faint flush on her cheeks. Lila could tell immediately that she was sick. Her mother's usual spark was dimmed, and even the warm smile that greeted Lila each morning was replaced by a soft, tired look. Lila's heart sank. She knew how important today was. Her mother had been preparing for an important job interview for weeks. Lila remembered hearing her talk about it late at night, practicing answers in front of the mirror, making sure every detail was perfect. Today, she was supposed to leave the apartment at 10 in the morning and meet the CEO of a well-known company. But now, seeing her mother so sick, Lila felt a strange mix of worry and determination. She climbed out of bed quietly and tiptoed to her mother. "Mom, are you okay?" she asked softly. Her mother managed a weak smile. "I'll be fine, sweetheart. Just a little tired." Lila looked into her mother's eyes and noticed the worry there, the concern about missing the interview. Then, without fully thinking, she blurted out, "Mom, I can go instead." Her mother laughed, a small, fragile sound. "Go instead? Lila, you're only 8. "I know," Lila said, her voice steady. "But you're sick. I can go for you. I can tell them all about you. I'll do it." Her mother shook her head, a mix of amusement and disbelief on her face. "Oh, Lila, that's very brave of you, but it's not that simple. It's a job interview, not a storybook." Lila thought for a moment. She had heard her mother talking about interviews before, but she didn't fully understand them. Still, she knew she wanted to help. "I know, I just want to help you. Please, Mom." Her mother sighed, looking at her daughter. There was pride in her eyes, but also concern. "You're a very thoughtful girl. I just don't want you to get hurt or confused, but maybe you can come with me, at least to see what it's like." Lila's face lit up. She quickly ran to her small closet and picked out the outfit her mother had laid out the night before. She tried to imitate the clothes her mother would wear for an interview. A simple dress, neat shoes, and a small cardigan. She even brushed her hair carefully, making sure it looked tidy. Then she packed her little backpack with a notebook and some crayons, just in case she needed them. She felt important, like she was carrying her own secret mission. Her mother slowly got out of bed and helped Lila put on her jacket. "All right, we'll go together," she said, "but you'll mostly be quiet. Let me handle the talking. You can watch and learn." Lila nodded seriously. She felt a mix of excitement and nerves as they left the apartment. The air outside was crisp, and she held her mother's hand tightly as they walked to the bus stop. Lila noticed things she hadn't before. The way people hurried past, the sounds of cars and bicycles, the smell of fresh bread from a nearby bakery. Everything seemed bigger today, more important. On the way, Lila asked questions, curious about every little detail. "Mom, what will the office look like? Will there be lots of people? What does a CEO look like?" Her mother smiled softly, glad to share. "The office is very big, with lots of windows and plants. There will be people working at computers, talking on phones. And the CEO, well, he's a very serious man, but he likes honesty and people who try their best." Lila nodded, taking it all in. She imagined the office in her mind. Tall buildings, shiny floors, and a man in a suit with a serious face. But she also imagined showing her courage and helping her mother. She wanted to make her proud. When they reached the building, Lila's eyes widened. It was taller than any building she had ever seen, with shiny glass walls and a revolving door that made a whooshing sound when people entered. Her mother took a deep breath and led the way inside. Lila held her hand tightly, feeling both nervous and excited. Inside, the office was bustling with activity. People in suits hurried past, holding folders and talking on phones. The walls were decorated with paintings and certificates, and the air smelled faintly of coffee and polished wood. Lila's small hand was engulfed by her mother's, and she felt both tiny and important at the same time. At the reception desk, the receptionist looked up and raised an eyebrow when she saw Lila. "Hello, can I help you?" she asked. Lila straightened up and said clearly, "I'm here for my mom's interview. She's sick, so I came instead." The receptionist blinked, unsure if she had heard correctly. You came instead?" "Yes," Lila replied confidently. "She's sick. I can wait. I can tell them about her." The receptionist smiled softly, charmed by the little girl's seriousness. She picked up the phone and called the CEO's office. While Lila waited, she looked around, noticing small details. A plant by the window, a painting of a city skyline, and people working quietly at their desks. Everything seemed so big and grown up, but she felt ready to face it. After a few minutes, a tall man in a suit stepped out. Lila immediately knew this was the CEO. His expression changed from curiosity to surprise when he saw Lila standing confidently in front of him. He looked down at her and asked, "And who are you?" Lila straightened her shoulders and said, "I'm Lila. I came because my mom is sick. She has an interview with you, but she couldn't make it. I wanted to help." The CEO's eyes widened in surprise. He wasn't expecting this. He looked at the little girl, her small face serious, her eyes full of determination. He felt a strange mix of amusement and admiration. Here was a child who had stepped into an adult world with courage and honesty. He knelt slightly to her level and asked gently, "Are you sure you can do this? This is a very important meeting." Lila nodded firmly. "Yes, I can tell you about my mom. She's really smart and works very hard. She always helps people and never gives up." The CEO chuckled softly, shaking his head in disbelief. He could see the sincerity in her eyes and the pride she had in her mother. There was something about her honesty, her courage, and her willingness to step up that touched him deeply. As they waited for her mother, Lila sat quietly, observing the office. She noticed how everyone moved quickly but politely, how they spoke softly on the phone, and how the environment was full of energy and focus. She felt a mix of awe and excitement, imagining all the things she could learn just by being there. Her mother arrived shortly after, leaning on the wall for support. She looked worried at first, but then saw Lila standing there confidently, talking to the receptionist and even smiling. Her heart swelled with pride. She realized that Lila had managed to carry herself in a way that was beyond her years. The little girl had not only stepped in, but had done so with courage and composure. The CEO smiled at the mother, then back at Lila. "You have a very brave daughter," he said. "I can see where she gets it from." Lila beamed, feeling proud and important. She had helped her mother in a way she hadn't imagined. The morning had started with worry and sickness, but now it was filled with courage, admiration, and hope. She had learned that even a small person could make a big difference, and that stepping up for someone you love was one of the bravest things you could do. As they prepared to start the actual interview, Lila felt a flutter of excitement. She had already faced something extraordinary, something that would stay in her memory forever. The office, the CEO, the people, the sounds and smells, it all felt like a new world she had just stepped into. And she was ready for whatever came next, knowing that her heart, her courage, and her honesty were enough to make a difference. Lila's small hand held tightly in her mother's. She stepped further into the office. The lobby was grander than she had imagined. High ceilings, polished marble floors, and a large chandelier that sparkled in the morning light made everything feel majestic and grown up. She looked up at the walls lined with framed awards, pictures of teams celebrating successes and plaques that spoke of years of achievement. Each item seemed to tell a story, and though she couldn't read most of the text, Lila could feel the importance of the space. Her mother leaned down, whispering, "Stay close to me, Lila. This is a busy office. People are working, so let's be respectful and quiet." Lila nodded seriously. She had never been in a place like this before, and the rules seemed simple enough. Stay close, be polite, and observe. She kept her eyes wide open, drinking in every detail, noting everything she saw. People passed by in crisp suits and smart dresses, carrying folders, typing quickly on laptops, and speaking quietly on phones. The hum of conversation and typing created a rhythm that made the office feel alive, like a small, intricate city moving together. As they approached the receptionist's desk again, Lila felt her stomach tighten a little. The woman behind the desk looked up and smiled when she saw Lila and her mother. "Good morning. Are you here for the interview?" she asked. "Yes," her mother said softly, still leaning on Lila. "I'm here for my appointment, but my daughter came with me today because I'm not feeling well. She's been helping me get ready." The receptionist's eyes shifted to Lila, who straightened her back and gave a small nod. "I'm here for my mom," Lila said. "She's sick, so I wanted to make sure everything goes okay." The receptionist blinked, clearly surprised. "Oh, I see. That's very thoughtful of you." She picked up the phone and called the CEO's office. Lila watched as the receptionist spoke, noticing the kindness in her voice, the patience as she explained the unusual situation. Even in a big, busy office, small gestures of care stood out. While they waited, Lila wandered her eyes across the lobby. There was a seating area with plush chairs, a low table with magazines neatly stacked, and a large aquarium with brightly colored fish swimming gracefully. She imagined the fish having tiny meetings of their own, moving around with purpose. She giggled softly and her mother smiled down at her. Lila loved observing life, and even in this serious adult world, she could find little wonders that made her smile. Soon the CEO, Mr. Caldwell, appeared. Lila could tell immediately who he was. He had a tall, commanding presence, sharp eyes that seemed to notice everything, and a carefully tailored suit that spoke of success and precision. His initial glance at Lila was one of surprise, followed by a faint smile as he knelt slightly to meet her gaze. "And who might you be?" he asked gently. "I'm Lila," she said confidently. "I came because my mom is sick. She has an interview with you, but she couldn't make it. I wanted to help." Mr. Caldwell chuckled softly. He wasn't expecting a small child standing in the lobby, speaking with such confidence. His eyes, usually sharp and analytical, softened. There was something genuine in her expression, a combination of innocence, courage, and care that was impossible to ignore. He looked over at her mother, who gave a small shrug and smile. "She's very brave," her mother said. "She insisted on coming with me today." The CEO nodded thoughtfully. Then he turned back to Lila. "Are you sure you can do this?" he asked. "This is an important meeting." "Yes," Lila replied firmly. "I can tell you about my mom. She's really smart, works very hard, and always helps people. She never gives up." His amusement turned into admiration. Here was a small child articulating values, courage, and honesty, qualities he knew were essential in his company. He motioned for them to follow him to a quiet meeting room. As they walked, Lila noticed even more details. The polished floors reflecting the ceiling lights, the walls lined with inspiring quotes, and the steady movement of employees focused on their tasks. Each step made her feel more a part of this new world. The meeting room was large, with a long, polished wooden table and chairs neatly arranged around it. Sunlight poured in through wide windows, making the room feel bright and welcoming despite the serious tone of a business space. Lila's mother took a seat while Lila stood beside her, her small figure contrasting with the grandeur of the room. Mr. Caldwell gestured for them to sit. "Why don't you tell me a little about your mom?" he said, his tone gentle and inviting. Lila took a deep breath and began. "My mom works very hard. She is always kind to people, even when she is busy. She helps her neighbors, stays late when she needs to finish something, and she never gives up when things are hard. She cares about doing her best, and she makes sure everyone around her feels supported." She paused for a moment, then added, "I think those are the things that make her good at work. She's smart, honest, and she always tries to help people." Mr. Caldwell leaned back in his chair, listening intently. His usual poker face softened into a thoughtful expression. He had interviewed many adults over the years, heard countless stories of achievements and skills, but there was something about a child's honest perspective that was completely different. Lila's words were simple, yet they carried authenticity and emotion. "Those are wonderful qualities," he said, smiling. "And how do you know so much about your mom's work?" Lila thought for a moment. "I watch her. I listen to her talk about her day, and I see how she treats people. I know it's important to be kind and work hard." Her mother's eyes welled up with tears, proud and a little emotional. She never expected her daughter to speak so clearly and sincerely. In that moment, the room was filled with a quiet warmth, a stark contrast to the usual tension of a formal business setting. Mr. Caldwell nodded again, clearly impressed. "It seems like your mom has taught you very well. You've learned to see what matters most." Lila smiled, feeling proud. She had never thought that her observations could make such a difference. The meeting, which had begun with worry and sickness, had transformed into something meaningful, something that highlighted honesty, courage, and human connection. As the conversation continued, Lila added small stories about her mother's kindness and dedication. She spoke about the time her mother stayed up late to help a coworker with a project, and how she once organized a small community event to help neighbors in need. Each story, simple as it was, painted a vivid picture of her mother's character and values. The CEO listened, occasionally nodding and jotting down notes. He asked gentle follow-up questions, curious to hear more about the small moments that showed character, rather than just accomplishments. Lila's answers were thoughtful and genuine. She spoke with clarity, a rare mix of childlike honesty and surprising insight. Even the staff in the room, who had been quietly observing, began to smile and whisper to each other. Lila's presence had changed the atmosphere. The tension typical of a formal interview was replaced by warmth, curiosity, and human connection. The little girl's courage and sincerity had a ripple effect on everyone present. When her mother needed to answer a more technical question about her experience and skills, Lila stayed quiet, listening carefully. She observed the interaction between her mother and the CEO, noticing the subtle gestures, the way people's eyes lit up when they felt understood, and the importance of speaking honestly and confidently. After some time, Mr. Caldwell leaned back in his chair, a smile playing on his lips. "You've done very well, Lila. You've helped me see the heart of your mom's character, and that is just as important as her skills on paper." Lila beamed, proud of herself and happy to have helped. She realized that courage wasn't about size or age. It was about stepping up, being honest, and doing what was right. The CEO's approval felt like a reward, not just for her mother, but for her bravery and sincerity. As they left the meeting room, Lila's mother held her hand and whispered, "Thank you, Lila. You made a difference today." "I'm so proud of you." Lila smiled, feeling a warmth in her chest. She had stepped into a world that seemed far too big for her. Yet she had managed to navigate it with honesty, courage, and heart. She had learned that even in adult spaces, small acts of bravery and sincerity could leave a lasting impression. Walking back through the lobby, Lila noticed all the details she had missed on the way in. The polished floors reflecting the sunlight, the careful placement of furniture, the plants thriving in the bright light, and the steady flow of people working diligently. Everything felt familiar now, and she understood that even in a serious, grown-up environment, kindness, honesty, and courage mattered most. By the time they reached the exit, Lila felt proud, happy, and excited. The morning had started with worry and uncertainty, but it had transformed into an experience filled with learning, courage, and connection. She had helped her mother, impressed a CEO, and discovered the power of honesty and bravery in her own small way. The office, once intimidating and vast, had become a place where her actions mattered, where her heart and courage could shine. And for Lila, that was the most important lesson of all. Lila stood beside her mother, ready to observe the next part of the day. The meeting room still felt warm and welcoming, a contrast to the tension she had expected in a professional office. Sunlight streamed through the large windows, falling across the long, polished table and making the room glow. Lila's mother adjusted her papers, smoothing them out neatly, and gave Lila a small nod. It was a signal. This was the part where she needed to watch and learn. Mr. Caldwell sat at the head of the table, his usual stern expression softened by a quiet curiosity. He looked at Lila with gentle eyes and said, "Would you like to tell me a little more about your mom's work?" Lila nodded. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment but also a spark of excitement. She had prepared herself in her mind for this moment, imagining exactly how she would explain her mother's qualities. "My mom is very smart," she began, her small voice steady. "She can solve problems that others find difficult. She works very hard, even when she's tired or sick, and she always cares about the people she works with." She paused, thinking carefully. Once, she stayed late to finish a project so that her team could succeed. Another time, she helped a co-worker who was struggling, even though she had her own work to do. She believes that helping people is just as important as finishing the work. Mr. Caldwell listened intently. He had heard many adults talk about their work and their accomplishments, but there was something special about hearing a child describe someone's character so clearly and sincerely. He leaned back in his chair, his expression thoughtful, realizing that Lila's words gave him insight into her mother that no resume or interview could ever show. "Those are wonderful examples," he said kindly. "It's clear that your mom cares deeply about her work and the people around her. How do you know so much about her actions?" "I watch her," Lila said simply. "I notice the things she does, the way she talks to people and how she tries to help them. Even small things like making sure everyone has what they need or listening when someone is sad matter. That's how I know she's a good worker and a good person." Her mother's eyes glistened with pride. She had always wanted her daughter to understand the importance of kindness, honesty, and hard work. Hearing Lila speak with such clarity confirmed that those lessons were sinking in. Mr. Caldwell leaned forward, his elbows resting on the table. It seems like your mom has taught you very well. You understand what matters in life, not just at work. That's rare, Lila smiled, feeling proud. She had always admired her mother. But now she realized that her observations and understanding mattered too. Her words could influence how someone important viewed her mother. The CEO asked gently, "Can you give me another example of something your mom did that shows her character?" Lila thought for a moment, recalling a small but meaningful incident. Last year, our neighbor was having a hard time. My mom helped organize a small fundraiser to support them. She invited our friends and even her co-workers. She stayed up late making sure everything went well. She never expected anything in return. She just wanted to help. Mr. Caldwell nodded, impressed. That shows leadership and compassion. Those are important qualities in any workplace. Lila's confidence grew as she continued to speak. She told stories about her mother's kindness, her dedication to her work, and her ability to support others even when under pressure. Each story was simple, yet it painted a vivid picture of her mother's character. The CEO listened quietly, occasionally jotting down notes, clearly engaged by the authenticity and depth of Lila's words. The staff in the room, who had been observing quietly, began to smile and exchange glances. Lila's presence was changing the atmosphere. The usual seriousness of a corporate meeting was replaced by warmth, empathy, and genuine human connection. Her small voice carried a message of honesty and courage that no formal presentation could replicate. Mr. Caldwell asked her a few light questions, not about her mother's technical skills, but about her perspective on values and life. "What do you think is important at work?" he asked. Lila replied thoughtfully, "Being honest, helping others, and trying your best. It's important to care about the people you work with, not just the work itself. If you do your best and help others, everything else will follow." Her mother's eyes filled with tears again, proud of the wisdom her daughter was showing. The CEO's expression softened even more. He realized that Lila's words reflected her mother's values perfectly. The clarity and innocence in her answers made it impossible to ignore the truth behind them. Mr. Caldwell smiled and leaned back in his chair. "You've done very well, Lila. You've helped me see the heart of your mom's character, which is more important than any resume or interview answer. I can see where she gets her values from." Lila beamed. She felt proud and happy. She had stepped into a grown-up world, faced a formal meeting, and made a real difference. Her courage and honesty had been noticed and appreciated by an influential adult, someone who could help her mother in a very real way. Her mother spoke softly, her voice full of gratitude. "Thank you, Lila. You've helped me more than you know. I'm so proud of you." Lila smiled, feeling warmth in her chest. She had never imagined that her small act of bravery could have such an impact. She realized that courage wasn't about age or size. It was about stepping up, speaking honestly, and caring about others. The CEO then shifted the conversation back to her mother, asking a few professional questions. Lila stayed quiet, observing, learning, and occasionally nodding. She noticed the subtle ways people communicated, the importance of listening, and the value of honesty. Even though she was a child, she understood that her presence had helped create a connection that went beyond formalities. After some time, Mr. Caldwell stood and shook her mother's hand. "I appreciate your time today. Your daughter gave me a glimpse of who you are in a way that no interview could." "That's invaluable." Her mother smiled, overwhelmed with gratitude. She looked down at Lila, hugging her tightly. "You did something amazing today," she whispered. Lila felt a sense of accomplishment and pride. She had faced the unknown, navigated an adult space with confidence, and made a real impact. The morning had started with worry and sickness, but it had transformed into a day of courage, connection, and learning. As they left the meeting room, Lila noticed how different everything felt. The polished floors, the quiet offices, and the focused employees no longer seemed intimidating. Instead, she saw them as a part of a world where honesty, bravery, and kindness could shine through, even in the smallest ways. Walking back through the lobby, Lila reflected on the morning's events. She had learned that even a child could make a difference, that courage and sincerity could open doors, and that the heart mattered more than technical skill alone. The office, once vast and intimidating, had become a place where her actions and words carried meaning. By the time they reached the exit, Lila felt a mix of pride, joy, and excitement. She had helped her mother, impressed a CEO, and discovered the power of honesty and courage. The experience would stay with her forever, a lesson in bravery, empathy, and the extraordinary impact of small, sincere actions. She had stepped into a world much bigger than herself, and had left a mark simply by being brave, honest, and caring. After the meeting, Lila and her mother stepped out of the room, and the CEO stayed back for a moment to gather his thoughts. The office, though still busy with the usual hustle and bustle, now felt warmer, lighter, somehow more human. Lila had seen the transformation from the tense, formal environment to one filled with quiet smiles and gentle nods, all because of her courage and honesty. Her mother took a deep breath, feeling proud, grateful, and overwhelmed by what had just happened. They returned to the lobby, where employees were going about their tasks, but now many glanced at Lila and smiled. Even a few whispered quietly to each other about the little girl who had walked into a grown-up world and made a lasting impression. Lila noticed, and a sense of pride swelled inside her. She had helped her mother, but she had also left her mark in this space filled with adults who usually overlook the small details of kindness and courage. Her mother leaned down and whispered, "You were amazing, Lila. I don't know how to thank you enough." Lila smiled softly, feeling the warmth of her mother's words. Meanwhile, Mr. Caldwell reflected on what had just occurred. He had interviewed countless people in his life, but rarely had he seen someone speak with such clarity, honesty, and insight. He realized that what Lila had shared about her mother was more telling than any resume, reference, or test could convey. Her words reflected her mother's values, character, and the way she approached life and work. He felt a rare mixture of admiration and respect, not only for the mother but also for the child who had so courageously stepped into a world that was unfamiliar to her. He thought about his own childhood, remembering moments when he had wished for someone to stand up and show courage, when he had hoped to be recognized not just for his skills, but for his heart. Lila reminded him of the simple power of honesty and authenticity. In a world dominated by resumes, achievements, and polished appearances, this small child had reminded him of the human essence behind every professional interaction. Back in the lobby, Lila and her mother prepared to leave, but Mr. Caldwell called them back. He wanted to speak privately with her mother, to acknowledge her dedication and the lessons she had imparted to her daughter. They stepped aside, and the conversation was quiet, respectful, and filled with genuine appreciation. "I wanted to thank you," he began, "not just for coming today, but for raising a daughter who embodies the very values we look for in this company. Her words gave me a clear sense of who you are, in a way that no formal interview could. That speaks volumes about your character and your approach to life and work." Her mother felt tears well up in her eyes. She had worked hard her entire life, not just to succeed, but to teach her children the importance of integrity, empathy, and courage. Hearing this from someone she respected deeply was a profound validation of her values and efforts. Meanwhile, Lila watched quietly, feeling both pride and curiosity. She didn't fully understand the nuances of business and corporate life, but she understood the emotions in the room, the respect, the admiration, and the genuine connection that had formed. It was a lesson in human interaction, far beyond what she could have learned in school. Mr. Caldwell continued, "I've seen many people interview, but rarely has someone's child shown such understanding and honesty. Your dedication as a mother has clearly shaped her perspective. That is a rare quality, and it is one I value greatly. I would like to move forward with offering you the position." Her mother's heart leapt with joy. She had not only been recognized for her professional skills, but also for the values she had instilled in her child. It was a moment of triumph, validation, and deep emotional satisfaction. Lila hugged her mother tightly, feeling the joy and pride radiating from her. She had played a small but meaningful role in this victory, and the experience would stay with her forever. As they walked back through the lobby to exit the building, Lila noticed the employees still glancing at her with smiles. She realized that courage, honesty, and kindness could have a profound impact, even in a world dominated by business, schedules, and deadlines. Her small actions had created ripples of positivity, showing that human values were as important as technical skills or achievements. Outside, the city seemed brighter, warmer, and more welcoming. The morning's tension had transformed into a day filled with accomplishment, pride, and human connection. Lila walked alongside her mother, holding her hand tightly, feeling the weight and significance of what had just transpired. It was more than just a job interview. It was a lesson in bravery, empathy, and the extraordinary impact of honesty and courage. The journey home was quiet but filled with a sense of shared triumph. Lila's mother held her daughter close, grateful for her bravery and the way she had represented her values. Lila felt proud, realizing that even a small person could make a big difference when guided by honesty, courage, and love. As they reached their apartment, her mother turned to Lila and said, "You have taught me something today. You showed me the power of courage and honesty. Thank you for stepping up when it mattered most." Lila smiled, feeling warmth and pride in her chest. She had learned that even in a world dominated by adults and responsibilities, a child's honesty, bravery, and heart could influence outcomes in meaningful ways. The day had been extraordinary, filled with lessons about human connection, empathy, and the value of integrity. In the following days, Lila's mother started her new position with confidence, carrying with her the validation and respect she had earned. She often reflected on Lila's role in this journey, recognizing that her daughter's courage and insight had not only touched the CEO, but had also strengthened their bond as mother and daughter. Lila continued to grow, inspired by the experience, understanding the significance of honesty, empathy, and bravery in everyday life. The story of that day became a cherished memory for both mother and daughter. It was a testament to the power of human values, showing that courage, kindness, and sincerity could open doors, create connections, and leave lasting impressions. For Lila, it was a lesson in the importance of stepping up, speaking honestly, and caring for others, lessons she would carry with her throughout her life. The day after the interview, Lila and her mother were filled with a quiet excitement. Her mother had received the confirmation that she was officially hired, and the joy and relief they both felt was immense. For Lila, the experience had been transformative. She had witnessed firsthand how courage, honesty, and small acts of bravery could influence the world around her. She had stepped into an adult environment and, through her sincerity, made a lasting impact. As they walked to school and work, their conversations were light but filled with reflection. Lila's mother often spoke about the interview, not the technical questions or professional skills, but the importance of values, character, and honesty. Lila listened intently, absorbing the lessons and connecting them to the experience she had just lived through. Lila noticed the small details in her surroundings differently now. She saw the kindness in people's faces, the way a coworker helped another without being asked, the way a neighbor carried groceries for someone struggling. The world seemed larger yet more intimate, filled with opportunities to make a difference, no matter how small one might be. At home, they celebrated quietly with a small dinner, a simple meal but one filled with laughter and stories. Lila's mother spoke about her first day at work, the warm welcome from her colleagues, and how she felt proud to be part of a team that valued both skill and heart. Lila listened, smiling at the thought that she had played a part in this achievement, helping her mother step into a new chapter of life. Days turned into weeks, and Lila continued to notice the impact of that single courageous act. Her mother shared stories about her colleagues, about the projects she was working on, and about moments when she remembered Lila's role in helping her get there. The bond between mother and daughter grew stronger, based on shared experiences, mutual respect, and an understanding of each other's strengths. Lila also carried these lessons into her school life. She became more confident in speaking up, more thoughtful in helping her classmates, and more aware of the importance of honesty and kindness. She realized that courage was not about being fearless, but about stepping up, doing what was right, and caring for others, even when it was difficult. Her mother, meanwhile, thrived in her new position. She found herself surrounded by colleagues who appreciated her skills and values. The CEO, Mr. Caldwell, continued to express his admiration for her character, often recalling the moment Lila had represented her so well. That day had left an indelible mark on him as well, reminding him that values and integrity were as crucial as technical competence in any workplace. Lila and her mother often reflected on the day of the interview, understanding that it was more than just a job opportunity. It had been a lesson in human connection, in empathy, and in the extraordinary impact of honesty and courage. They realized that small actions, even from the youngest members of a family, could create ripples of influence, changing perceptions and shaping outcomes in profound ways. The experience became a story they shared with close friends and family, not as a tale of professional success, but as an example of values, character, and the importance of nurturing courage and honesty in children. It was a reminder that life's unexpected moments could reveal character, strengthen bonds, and create opportunities that formal measures could never capture. As the months went by, Lila continued to grow, inspired by the lessons she had learned. She understood that even small actions mattered, that honesty and empathy could open doors, and that courage was about facing the unknown with a sincere heart. Her mother's success became a shared achievement, a testament to their bond, and a reminder of the day when a little girl's bravery made a difference in the adult world. Every time Lila walked past a tall building, she remembered the lobby, the reception desk, and the CEO's warm smile. She recalled the way she had spoken about her mother, the stories she had told, and the sincerity that had touched everyone in the room. It was a memory filled with pride, growth, and understanding, a memory that would guide her throughout her life. The story of Lila walking into the interview became a cherished memory, a story of bravery, empathy, and the human spirit. It reminded her mother, the CEO, and everyone who heard it that values, character, and honesty were the true measures of success. For Lila, it was a defining moment, a day when she learned that even the smallest acts of courage could leave a lasting impact on the world around her. As they settled into their routines, life continued, but the lessons remained. Lila carried her confidence, empathy, and understanding into everything she did. Her mother continued to excel, supported by the values she had instilled in her daughter. Together, they had experienced a moment that would shape their futures, a moment that proved the extraordinary power of courage, honesty, and heart. In the years that followed, Lila often remembered that day, not with a sense of achievement for herself, but with a quiet pride for the courage she had shown and the difference she had made. She understood that true impact came from sincerity, honesty, and the willingness to step up for others. And with that understanding, she faced each new challenge with a brave heart, knowing that even small actions could lead to meaningful change, and that every act of courage, no matter the size, had the potential to shape the world. Weeks passed since the interview, and life settled into a new rhythm for Lila and her mother. The apartment felt warmer, filled with a quiet confidence that came from facing challenges together. Lila's mother thrived in her new role, gaining respect and admiration from her colleagues. She was careful to share little lessons from home about courage, empathy, and honesty, which reminded her coworkers of what truly mattered in life. Lila, meanwhile, carried the memory of that day with her everywhere. Every time she looked at her mother preparing for work, she felt a deep sense of pride and connection. She remembered the moment she had stood in the lobby, the CEO looking down at her, and how she had spoken about her mother with complete honesty. That moment had changed something inside her. It had shown her that even small acts could have a big impact when they came from the heart. The bond between mother and daughter grew stronger with each passing day. They would discuss their days, sometimes over dinner, sometimes while preparing for bedtime. Lila would tell her mother about small acts of kindness she had noticed at school or on the street, and her mother would nod, proud of her growing awareness and empathy. The lessons from the interview carried over into everyday life, shaping Lila's understanding of the world. One morning, Lila's mother had to attend an important team meeting, and Lila insisted on accompanying her. "Just for a little while," she said. "I want to see how you work now that you're at your new job." Her mother smiled, touched by her daughter's curiosity and care. She agreed, and together they walked to the office. As they entered the building, Lila noticed the familiar lobby and the receptionist's friendly smile. She waved, and the woman smiled back, clearly remembering the little girl who had so confidently walked in weeks before. Lila felt a warm sense of belonging, knowing that her courage had left a lasting impression. They made their way to her mother's office, where the team was gathered around a large table discussing ongoing projects. Lila quietly observed, noticing the collaboration, the respect, and the way everyone listened to one another. Her mother welcomed her briefly, and Lila took a seat quietly, soaking in the environment. Throughout the meeting, Lila noticed moments of kindness and encouragement, her mother guiding a colleague gently, offering advice and listening patiently. Lila realized that the qualities she had described during the interview were not just words. They were actions lived out every day. This reinforced the lesson that honesty, courage, and empathy were not just important in moments of challenge, but in the day-to-day interactions that built trust and respect. After the meeting, her mother thanked Lila for coming. "Seeing you here reminds me why I do what I do," she said softly. "Your courage that day helped me more than you know. And now watching you observe how we work reminds me why I want to do it well." Lila smiled, feeling proud and grown in ways she hadn't expected. She realized that courage was not just about stepping into a new situation, but also about observing, learning, and carrying the lessons forward. Each day presented an opportunity to practice what she had learned, to act with empathy and honesty, and to make a difference in small but meaningful ways. As weeks turned into months, Lila began sharing her experiences at school with her friends. She spoke about how her mother treated others at work, about the importance of helping people, and how courage could be found in everyday actions. Her classmates listened with interest, inspired by her stories and the simplicity of the lessons she shared. Lila's voice carried more confidence, and she realized that her small act of bravery at the interview had set her on a path of growth and understanding. Back at home, her mother continued to excel, often recalling the day of the interview when she faced the CEO with Lila by her side. That day had become a benchmark of courage, honesty, and the power of family support. It reminded her that the smallest acts could have the most profound effects, shaping not only careers but hearts and minds. One afternoon, as Lila was drawing in her notebook, she paused to think about everything she had experienced. The office, the CEO, the stories she had shared, and the way she had represented her mother, it all felt like a journey she had taken, not just a moment in time. She realized that courage was about stepping up, speaking honestly and acting with care no matter the size of the task or the age of the person. She understood that every act, small or large, carried the potential to make a difference. Her mother watched her, proud of how Lila was growing into a thoughtful, courageous, and empathetic young girl. She realized that the interview had been transformative not only for her career, but also for her daughter's understanding of the world. They had shared a moment that would shape both of their futures, a moment where honesty, courage, and heart had intersected to create lasting impact. Together, they reflected on the lessons of that day regularly. Lila's mother emphasized the importance of kindness, empathy, and sincerity, while Lila reminded her mother of the courage it took to step forward and trust in one's values. Their shared experiences strengthened their bond, instilling confidence, pride, and a deeper understanding of the power of human values. As the year progressed, Lila continued to observe, learn, and grow. She noticed the subtle ways people interacted, how honesty and care could influence relationships, and how courage often manifested in small, everyday actions. She understood that life was filled with moments where one could make a difference, and that the lessons from her mother's interview could be applied in many aspects of her life. Her mother's success at work continued to flourish, with colleagues recognizing not only her professional abilities, but also the values she embodied and shared with her daughter. The CEO occasionally recalled the day Lila had spoken on her mother's behalf, noting the rare insight a child had provided into her character. That memory remained a testament to the power of courage, honesty, and empathy. Through it all, Lila learned that even a child could create meaningful change. She carried the experience forward, applying the lessons of honesty, courage, and care in her school, friendships, and daily life. She knew that stepping up, even in small ways, could leave a lasting impact, just as she had witnessed during the interview. In quiet moments, Lila often reflected on the journey she had shared with her mother. She remembered walking into the building, speaking to the CEO, and representing her mother with honesty and courage. Those memories reminded her that values mattered above all else, that empathy and bravery could influence the world, and that even small acts of kindness and courage could ripple outward, creating a meaningful impact far beyond the moment. The story of Lila stepping in for her mother became a cherished memory, not just for them but for everyone who learned about it. It was a story of courage, empathy, honesty, and the extraordinary power of human connection. Lila understood that life's greatest lessons often came from stepping up, acting with integrity, and trusting in the values instilled in her by her family. Years later, when Lila looked back, She realized that the experience had shaped her in ways she could never have imagined. She had learned that courage was about heart, honesty was about truth, and empathy was about understanding others. She understood that even the smallest person could leave a big mark on the world through sincere, brave, and caring actions. And she knew that the lessons from that day would guide her for the rest of her life, reminding her always that courage, honesty, and heart could change the world in the most unexpected and meaningful ways.